Thank you. Good afternoon. Hard time to listen for so many hours, but gratefully we have some relaxation at the end, so you have to battle through our presentations. No sound? Yeah?
Maybe a little closer.
Close up. Ooh, is it okay now? The sound?
Yeah.
Oui. Experts Under Pressure is the title of the joint presentation that Nico and I will be giving. And this is a really peculiar subject, maybe. Why this subject? It came about in my practice as a director of staff where 50 experts are working. And we had a pretty intense incident with a lawyer who was really rude and really, well, inappropriate to my experts. And they were really rattled and they didn't know what to do. The woman in question did not only question their expertise, but also told them they were liars and that they were conniving. And well, it was truly impressive what she made up. It was completely made up, and we had never ever been confronted with such aggression before. But when we talked about this in our environment, it seemed that it's happening often, more often than you like, and not only in our profession, but also in the lawyer's profession, maybe, and in every profession. So I decided that I wanted to do something about that, and I hired an expert on aggression. And she did an intensive course with my colleagues, and they were benefiting from that. And then I got thinking that maybe people in this room or colleagues in Belgium and the Netherlands can benefit from that. So here we are trying to make this problem more tangible. When we did this course, we had some really interesting examples that popped up. Over the years, examples were gathered where people never spoke about. Maar being locked in after you enter the premises is pretty awesome. A shotgun was casually shown and put in the corner. And then, to be precise, my experts go and visit farmers, companies to do the field work. And then they're in a room or in a house with people at home. So, and the last one, it was very interesting. It was actually, if you do not write down what I tell you now to do, I will send gangsters after you. So these are three of the examples, but there are many more, sadly enough. Okay, then, well, where does this start? Conflicts are part of life. It's a normal part of everyday life and also in organizations. If it tends to develop to become aggressive or intimidating, then the boundaries of normal behavior are overstepped. And it's very important that you learn to recognize when boundaries are overstepped. Some figures in the Netherlands only, figures are from 2018. We do not have any recent, but it's inclining. Inclining. Yeah. Over 1.6 million employees experienced aggressive or intimidating behavior. And 552,000 employees expressed a need for action by the employer, something that I did do. And when we plot it on the context of the work of experts, you see some general aspects. The judicial expert can be of critical value for the outcome of a procedure, so is vulnerable for pressure. The stakes can be high, and it's an incentive to influence, destabilize, or even intimidate an expert. There are categories of behavior, and this is interesting because then you can come to defining what is going on in front of you. Questioning the expertise of the expert is common. It happens a lot. Disturbing or confusing the expert is also common to be, sadly enough, but it happens a lot. Intimidation is not so much, but as we will learn later, when we did a survey, it's happening more than you wish for. Questioning the expertise of the expert, that is really something you really have to learn to deal with, because it's normal. Even a judge can ask very serious questions about your level of expertise. And in penal law, it's very normal that you're being drilled by parties about your level of expertise, and you have to train that. And it's not nice, and it can get under your skin, but it's normal. You need to deal with that. And your credibility is something that you have to stand for. So that's really the point. But you also have to be able to deal with framing, and framing is really something slightly more devious. And then you say very diminutive words. You use words like that you're stupid, or that you never go to school. Recent example, in your CV it says that you did that and that course, but were you paying attention at all? Well, that's really framing, and you need to learn techniques to step out of the frame, and that is actually more easy than you think, because you have to make up your own story about your professionality and just put it against this and just ignore what they're saying, but you have to just state your own professionality in some nice another frame. In social media, the criticism can become defamation, and that is something that is unacceptable. You cannot defend yourself. If you do that on social media, all hell will break loose. So we advise to report that to the judge. Disturbing or confusing the expert is something that is tricky. Experts in court can be less robust live and speaking out loud than they are on paper, and they are often more trained to be eloquent on paper than they are in court. And lawyers may, I say lawyers, and then lawyers may use this to damage credibility. There's an example of a lawyer who was very, very well written, but she had a stutter. And the lawyer he asked endless questions to her in court just to hear her stutter, and then in that way diminishing her value, trying to diminish the value. So, but is it not allowed? I don't think so. But you need to deal with it. You need to be, you need to, maybe you should learn not to stutter. I'm not sure if that's feasible, but it could be very uncomfortable. So training in court, court appearance is very much advised through moot court sessions or training in debating techniques. I did both in my organization, and I do that yearly, training. Intimidation, that is the next step. Recognize this to make a turn in the communication. An example. A lawyer accused experts of lying, that was the example I used before, deliberately distorting facts and colluding with the opposing party's lawyer. If that happens, you need to share that with the judge. In the case that I was confronted with, I had a conversation with the lawyer, and I told the lawyer in question that I would make a report of the things that happened and would send it in. It was a court of appeal. And to warn the judge that she would maybe in court bring up these things. And it helped because it teetered out, really. When you need to deal with these kinds of behavior, you need to recognize the conflict behavior before you. To know when you are intimidated or worse, you need to recognize the different types. It's rational conflict behavior, frustrated conflict behavior, instrumental conflict behavior, and psychopathological conflict behavior. Rational conflict behavior is a form of dialogue, but it's still civil. But it could be fierce, but it's about the content where you disagree, but it's not personal, it's not emotional. It's normal conflict behavior. When frustrated conflict behavior is very common in our field, very common, and it's to be recognized by anger or powerlessness. And the behavior is not focused on the situation, it's not on the expert, but on the situation, the powerlessness, the government, the rules. And this is behavior that you can, in an early stage, try to neutralize. And we'll see that further on. Instrumental conflict behavior is the manipulative kind. And the origin is not emotion, but the pure will to influence the outcome, just to try to win the case. It's deployed to reach the goal of the party, being proved right or winning. And this is really something that you need to think about. You have to be aware. The instrumental type will try to yield power over you where he has none. Because you are in power. You are the one that needs to, they need you to build their case. They need to put forward their point of view. So you are in power, actually. The psychopathological behavior is behavior more of confused persons. You see that in city council offices, also in penal law, but it's not always focused on the expert, rarely. So we disregard this behavior in the terms of the action perspective. De-escalation is key. An actionable perspective, I've named it. There is a very nice Dutch saying, and I'm not sure if this rings a bell, but it tries to give you het handelingsperspectief. It's a beautiful Dutch word. It is practical pointers to deal with these kind of behaviors, actually. In rational conflict behavior, then when the discussion hardens, the LSQ model works. Listen, summarize, ask questions. Listening is key, but very hard to do really well because you already know the answer. The person that you're listening to is too slow. You want to say something yourself. Really, really listening well is very, very hard to do, but essential. Summarizing structures the conversation and helps to check if you understood well. And it gives also, like with asking questions, it's signaling I'm taking you seriously. I know what you're talking about. I understand what you're saying, and that's very important in getting people within normal breathing and normal heart rate. And in frustrated conflict behavior, where the emotions are key, the RAE model is useful. Recognize, acknowledge, explore. Recognize the emotion, acknowledge the emotion, and explore the emotion. And that's also with the technique before, asking questions, taking the person seriously, talking very slowly and listening very well. Look people in the eye. That helps also to get the heart rate down and get the conversation in normal mode. Instrumental conflict behavior, when you are manipulated, this is often just simply unacceptable, and you have to stop it when you recognize it. And you need to stop it by setting boundaries. You have to stay in the lead by being friendly, but clear. That is the de-escalating effect that you seek, the result of being crystal clear and giving instructions. How to do that? This is a 4-steps example. Define that the behavior or words used are unacceptable. I hear you say that I'm lying. 2, define what you think of those words. I'm not pleased with that. And define what you want. I need you to stop this behavior. If that doesn't work, define the negative and the positive consequences. If you go on in this way, I will stop the meeting and report this to the judge. If you stop, we can continue the meeting, and then we have your side of the story in the report. The choice is yours. Be consistent and stop the meeting if party exists in the behavior. Aftercare and follow-up are very important. I recognize that when we talked about all the incidences in my organization. It's very important to talk about it and not feel that you just have to deal with it. Just it's normal, it comes with the job. That's not true. It does not come with a job, and it needs to be heard and it needs to be dealt with. Also, me as the leader, as the director of STOP, I need to stand for my people and take action, visible action, to protect them. And that helped in the case of the evil lawyer. The people were really, they were really happy that I took action and that I stood for their emotions, actually. Judicial experts are often working on their own. I am in a fortunate position that I have an organization of experts where I'm the direct. It's not an association of professionals. It's really an organization where people are full-time expert with me as a director. But that is rare, actually. So the discussion where maybe some of you want to react on that, it's very hard to make a safe environment if you're acting on your own. Where do you tell your story? Who do you turn to? That is a question that we think need to find an answer to within the EEI, because it's important that people know where to turn to and not feel so alone if they're acting and having trouble recuperating of an incident like this. Organizations of experts, also the associations, could have a positive role in this, but I don't know how, but that is really to explore, I think. How big is this problem? Because I recognized it and we think, well, we have something here. Nico agreed with me that it was really interesting to research how big the problem was in the Netherlands. And then he said, well, we just made contact with the IEnet. Let's just join effort and do a survey in Belgium and the Netherlands. And that's where Nico takes over.